Remarriage can ultimately cause someone to not inherit the kingdom of God. Jesus said, "Whoever sends away his wife and marries another is committing adultery against her. And if she, having sent away her husband, marries another, she is committing adultery." So here, Jesus is describing a situation where someone has been married and then will come at some point to marry another person. But in the situation he's describing, that person will be committing adultery. Committing adultery here is in the present tense, and it may not describe something that just happens once, but instead, Paul wrote, "While the husband is living, she will be called an adulteress if she comes to a different husband." So here, Paul describes that she will be called an adulteress while the husband is living. So it is not something that just happens once as she comes to a different husband, but it happens for as long as the husband is living. And this can be very significant because elsewhere Paul wrote, "Do not be deceived. Neither adulterers will inherit the kingdom of God." So here Paul describes that those who are called adulterers will ultimately not inherit the kingdom of God if they remain adulterers. And to understand the significance of what it means to not inherit the kingdom of God, let's look at the Gospels. In the Gospel, the terms inherit and kingdom are only used together in one place in all the four Gospels. And it's in Matthew 25, where a judgment is described. And in that judgment, Jesus said, "The king will say to the ones on his right side, 'Come, the ones having been blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom.'" So this is describing those who will inherit the kingdom as a result of that judgment. But then Jesus proceeds and describes those who will not inherit the kingdom. And so Jesus said, "But the king will say to the ones on the left side, 'Depart from me, the ones having been cursed, into the eternal fire.'" So here, as a result of a judgment, either one will inherit the kingdom or one will not inherit the kingdom and instead go into the eternal fire. So here, when Paul was describing that adulterers will not inherit the kingdom of God, he really meant something that people should not be deceived about. And Jesus described a situation where someone who marries another than their spouse will be committing adultery. So it may be safe to assume that in the situation Jesus was describing, Jesus may also not have wanted people to be deceived about that, but that this ultimately can cause them to not inherit the kingdom of God.